Good afternoon, LinkedIn family. A very happy Good Friday to everyone. Very happy Easter weekend to everybody. At least here in the Midwest where I live in the Chicagoland area, it's going to be gorgeous. We're going to be in the mid-70s. It's sunny here. And it's sunny on the show today because I have the very honor and privilege of welcoming the wonderful, fantastic, inspirational Tabitha Cavanaugh to Coffee with Bob Live. Tabitha, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is such a blessing for me. I'm very excited.
Well, no, it's my honor. You have been one of my biggest supporters over the last few years, and oddly enough, we never took it offline until now. So I'm excited to finally have this conversation, and I'm really, really grateful. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being on. Yeah, we've followed each other for a few years. I got turned on to Tab the Recruiter, hashtag Tab the Recruiter. And if you're not connected to, if you're not following Tabitha, if you're not engaging with her, you're missing out. You have to follow her and engage with her. She puts gold out there, and her story is just amazing. And I don't even remember who introduced me to you, but when they did, I've been a fan ever since.
Well, wow. Thank you.
Which is amazing from someone so young, right? You're relatively early in your career, and compared to an old man like me, and so it's just amazing seeing your growth over the years.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been a crazy ride for sure. And I'm not as young as you might think, although shout out to the person who told me earlier that I look like I was 25. I am almost 36. Actually, my birthday is in 2 weeks. So yeah, I feel like my story, as we'll continue to, talk about this here, is that our lives were just in a constant state of evolution, right? So I don't anticipate that I'm ever really going to be done. But my career has continued to change and shift, and I'm in a new space right now, and it's incredible. I'm excited. I'm scared. I'm all the things, right? But I'm embracing it and leaning into fear, and I know I'm in the right spot. So
yeah, and that's the thing. We're all where we're meant to be at some point or another. So I want to take us back a little bit, and I think most people who follow you or who engage with you know this about you, but because we were just talking about this while we were prepping for this interview, you're a colon cancer survivor. And and you're a guy about it, which is wonderful. Tell us a little bit about that. Let's go back and talk about it a bit.
Sure. So when I was 31, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, and it had come after a long fight with many, many physicians to figure out what was wrong with me. So by the time I finally made it to my diagnosis, still relatively young. And that's the big takeaway that I want people to remember is just pay attention to your bodies and don't ever think this is like an old man's disease, right? Because it's not. There are people younger than me that have had colon cancer, people older than me, men, women, children. I mean, it really doesn't discriminate. So yeah, back in 2017, I battled this, and it was a long road of chemo and surgeries and advocating for myself. So throughout the whole process, I really learned to develop what I like to call a strong ass mindset. And it keeps me grounded. It keeps me present. And it's really helped me in all other aspects of my life. Like COVID for me has been a breeze because, and I'm not saying it's been a breeze, right, but I'm saying in my mind, it's been more peaceful because I have been through so much already that I know when you just live in the moment and you kind of enjoy the journey, then you figure out ways to tweak along the way to make it so it can still be incredible. And that's really what I tried to do. I wanted my story to be used for good. At the time, I didn't know what was going to happen. In your brain, you're like stage 3 cancer. Like I even said to my surgeon, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound very good, does it? And he was like, you're going to be fine. Let's just get you through chemo. And I just had surgery, and I had a daughter, who was not even 2 years old yet. And wondering why are mommies always sick and why are mommies always going to the hospital and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I I have to be strong for her, and I want her to see what that looks like, to go through something hard and realize like, hey, I can do hard things,
Yeah. 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 It's been amazing watching the story and then seeing the results of the story in your post. And as you've been growing these last couple of years, I got to tell you, one of my most favorite videos is of you ringing your bell outside in the hospital and then breaking that bell.
Oh, that was fun.
I think that should be shared with everybody because it's a testament of who you are, and how exciting it is to go through that.
Yeah. I think there's a misconception about the bell. So the bell is a celebration of what you've accomplished and what you've just conquered, but it doesn't always mean that your cancer story is over.
Right.
And for me, while it did also mean that I was clear, it was also just like such a gratifying moment to celebrate with. And for anyone that might want to go back and look at it, I recently posted it on LinkedIn, but my nurses were there. I gave a shout out to my late oncologist who only after about 2 months of working with him had passed away. So there were plenty of obstacles throughout that journey, but it was like the culmination of everything. And I got to stand there with my family, my loved ones, just thank everybody for the angels that they were during and then ring it. And yeah, when my nurse said, ring it again, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's ring it again. And then I broke it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what's amazing too is I've noticed the change in you in your post and what you talk about. I mean, we don't know each other personally yet. We know each other virtually, right? And we've built a friendship off of it, which is cool. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy sharing you and making sure that people know who you are. That's why I did the Feature and Follow Friday last week on you, because I just want to get the word out about you out there. How do you think, how has this changed the way that you approach your professional lifestyle?
Oh man, that's a great question. So when I was nearing the end of chemo, I was thinking about what does life look like after this, right? There's not really life after cancer because it's just kind of a part of who you are. And it's different for everybody, right? Some people try to completely move on, shut it out of their life, forget that it happened, and like pray that it never comes back, right? And some days I'm in that lane too. But for me, there was a tug on my heart to share my story and to advocate for others and to give other people hope so they knew like they weren't alone. And so I thought a lot about what my life needed to look like after that and where I wanted to go. And that's when I fell into recruitment for the first time. And so, what has changed, I think, is my outlook on, even just approaching how I recruit, how I listen to people, maybe the questions that I ask, just the part of me that I share that then in turn gives the other person, even though they don't need it, it kind of gives them a permission of sorts to then share something personal about themselves. And the more that we get that open and transparent communication, it just creates a more comfortable space. And that is the best space to recruit in. When you have the trust of the candidate, they have your trust, you can really move forward in an honest way to find the best alignment for them. I know I have their best interest at heart. And it also just, some things that maybe used to bother me before don't bother me as much now.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I still get mad about the dumb things sometimes, right? But it really just puts things into perspective. It made me, like I said, it made me handle COVID, I think, a lot better because I'm like, okay, we're all here in this space now. Instead of being upset or complaining about it, like, what can we do to make the most of our minutes during this terrible time? And trust me, like, I lost my grandfather to COVID, and I'm announcing that for the first time right now. Yeah. But, it wasn't an easy ride, but a strong mindset just keeps you grounded. Like I said, it keeps you in that place where you feel like you can always pull on, and I don't need to rely on anyone else for my mindset to be strong. Like, I have to rely on me. And when I put all of the control back on me, then that's so freeing and so empowering.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's the way to be. What I like about some of the things that you post and talk about is you want to change the recruiting industry. And it's kind of amazing. Let's talk about that a little bit. I've had my issues with the recruiting industry and the ghosting that goes on and how we're looking at people. I follow you, I follow Bridget and a few other people that are involved in the industry and are looking at Brett Brody as an example too, that are looking, Gregory Austin, that are looking to change things. How do you see the industry needs to be changed?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I'm still learning too. And I said this in a post I just wrote the other day. I'm not perfect. I'm not here to say, oh, I've been a recruiter for, like not that long. Maybe somebody might think, I've been a recruiter for about 3.5 years, and recruitment is very fast paced. So you learn at such a different speed than maybe you might learn a different position in. And so I've been so immersed in the space, and I am incredibly passionate about the candidate experience. Now that also has to align with the business needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can do that. You can align the candidate experience with business needs. And that's what I'm not seeing a lot of places doing. But with that said, I'm seeing an uptick in companies really starting to care about how they're treating, their candidates, more focus on employee engagement once they're in, because that's the thing. Some people have a really great upfront process, so they get amazing candidates in the door, but then they don't do the right things to retain them. So it might not look pretty, but I am trying to start a conversation around, hey, here's what's wrong with the industry. Here's what we can try to change, but not just complain about it. And that's what my call to action was, in one of my most recent posts was, bring me a problem, but also bring me a solution. And let's brainstorm, because this isn't going to happen with just me. This is going to take an entire, mindset shift of an industry. But I think we can get there. I think it's going to take time and, bringing the right people in. Like recruitment is, I feel like, where sometimes just new people who don't know what they're doing at all just get thrown in, and then they're thrown to the wolves. And this isn't necessarily their fault. They don't know what they don't know. I still sometimes don't know what I don't know. And so we have to have conversations. We have to have the right people training, the right people encouraging, and setting expectations up front for the candidates and for the recruiters, I think, to make it really a successful partnership.
Yeah, and partnership is a great word. And I also like the word you use, engagement, right? I think employee engagement these days is getting overlooked in deference to everybody being remote, right? Mm-hmm. And what does engagement mean when you're trying to deal with remote people, or even as a recruiter when you're trying to do remote interviews, right? It's not face to face anymore. It's it's on video or over the phone. How is it that what do you suggest so that you can get more engagement?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like in terms of recruitment specifically, or like after the recruitment
period? Actually, both, because it's an issue. So, recruiters need to engage, right? Or HR people need to engage with prospective candidates. Or number one, you risk losing them, right? And number two, it leaves a bad taste in the candidate's mouth if there is no engagement going on. The whole ghosting bit, right?
Right, exactly.
You get that first reach out and things go really positively in whatever the screening call is. And all of a sudden it's 3 weeks later and you don't hear anything, or there's no response to your follow-up email. That's engagement too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It all is, and that's why I stress building relationships. And that's why you'll see in my headline, one conversation can literally change everything. It just happened for me. This is a story I have not shared. I feel like you're getting an exclusive right now, Bob.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
I don't want to dodge your question, but
that's okay.
In the light of that, like, I reached out to my now boss just a few weeks ago. Well, I guess at this point, it's been a little over a month ago. And I didn't know him before. I had zero connections at ChenMed, where I am now. I just reached out. I'm like, I want to work here. I love your mission, and it started with a connection request that turned into a voice memo, that turned into a first meeting, that turned into a few more meetings, that turned into an offer 2 weeks later. And that started from nothing. And it started from no application. I didn't apply. So I think, I say all that to say that building relationships is the foundation of everything that I've done here on LinkedIn, off of LinkedIn, in recruitment. It is like the quintessential thing that I feel like people are missing. Throwing job posts up on LinkedIn and calling that engagement, that's not engagement. And I applaud the effort of anyone trying to do something in this community, in the LinkedIn community. I really do. But it's more than that. It's taking conversations offline. It's helping people when you see a need. It's just putting yourself out there and finding your tribe by being who you are. And I think that's what recruitment has helped me to do, is to really find my voice and hone in on my voice and not be afraid of it anymore. And I think when I did that, it gave me the confidence and the transparency to then be very engaging with my candidates. And I care about them. I care about them like I would you or a friend. Like, I want the best for every single person I talk to. And the people that are receptive to that, you can tell, right? There's people that it's a two-way street. So you can't just expect your recruiters to be engaging. Like, the candidates also have a part in that. So for me, it just comes down to consistent communication. And if I don't typically let more than a few days go by without talking to my candidates, even if I don't have news. So I call it the no update. And I think other people say that too. I did not coin that term, but I just truly believe that the more I communicate and the more I say, like, hey, while you're waiting, check this out, and maybe send them something cool that they didn't know before, or just say, offer them something. Hey, go check out this podcast, or, hey, I don't have an update, but I just wanted you to know that we're still on track. And those things calm the candidate, because plenty of job seekers will tell you that waiting period is so, like, gives people so much anxiety, sometimes, to just sit there and be like, am I not? And then you've had candidates that sit there thinking they are the candidate just for 2 weeks or 3 weeks later to see that they're not. They're like, wait, I thought I was getting an offer. And then the recruiter is, disappeared. And I've heard that, so I think part of just, being engaging and engaging people in the right way is understanding, accepting, and having your own voice, and not being afraid, to set those expectations early and often. Anytime something changes, let them know. Anytime you have an expectation of them, like, hey, if you're in the job search process and you're interviewing with multiple companies, not just us, which I, encourage you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. Just let me know. That call out to me, asking them, like, just let me know, has made it so every single candidate, even if they've withdrawn from the process, they've respected our relationship enough to tell me, hey, I found something different, or I'm confused about this and I have this concern. And then it gives me the chance to address it before I lose a candidate.
Right.
For maybe a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But I hope that gave a little bit of perspective into what I'm thinking about when I'm speaking with my candidates, and what really matters to me, and what I think should matter to every recruiter, to be honest.
Well, and I think there's a large number of recruiters where it does, at least the ones that I've talked to, mm-hmm. in this process. I mean, one of the reasons why I love doing Coffee with Bob is because I'm able to expose people to other views, right? To other areas, whether that, and I've had job seekers on Coffee with Bob, right? Not the live yet, but the 10-minute one where they're introducing themselves, giving their elevator pitch, and hopefully it helps them find something. I have Coffee with Bob with people who are introducing services or products. That's why I do it. I like to let other people know who's out there, what's out there, and what other views are. Or like you, Tab. I mean, you have a fantastic story, and I love your outlook on things. It is just so full of life, which is amazing, especially in the recruiting industry, where you have to be almost separated from everything, right? Because let's face it, like you said, job hunting's a stressful job.
Yeah. Right? It's stressful for us too, trust me.
Yeah. But your attitude with it and the way that you handle and speak to people helps sort of alleviate that stress a little bit.
I try. My goal in every conversation is, no matter what the ultimate outcome is, my goal is to make sure that I've left the person with some value. So if we get to the end of the conversation and we're like, hey, you know what? Like this, I don't think this is the right fit for you. And I am not above, like, I'm not afraid to say that to people. I think you should. If you know that when you get off that phone, you're 100% sure that they are not the person for this role, I don't drag it out. I just let them know. Like if I can right now, if I need to talk to some other people or handle some things, then of course I will go do that. But if you can tell a candidate and be that transparent up front, like, hey, here are my concerns. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm thinking. Like, if you just tweak this on your resume, then you might have better responses from other companies. Or if you just do this, or, oh, you're looking at this company? Well, let me connect you to so-and-so I know over there and see if we can hook you up over there. And maybe later you're a good fit for here. So I think it's just constantly trying to keep in mind, first building a network, building relationships strong enough that you can lean on, and that if you, Bob, go to anyone I recommend you to, you're going to be able to say, hey, Tab sent me your way. And they're going to be like, oh, well, then I need to connect with you. So, and that's not, I don't mean that to be a pat on my back, but just saying build relationships strong enough to where you can do that.
Yep.
And when you can do that, then everything else, honestly, is a lot easier.
Yeah.
I have resources for my candidates left and right, even if I'm not the resource for them right now. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I also like one of the things you said just a few minutes ago too during that was about tweaking your resume. I think that is something that a lot of people don't realize how critical that is in your job search. Talk about that a second.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you've got people that are like, resumes are dead, or resumes should be dead, or regardless of right or wrong, resumes are, the main way that people are communicating their skills. So on to that point, I mean, people should be tailoring their resumes, and people are like, but how do I tailor my resume for 300 applications? And my response is, you shouldn't be applying to 300 jobs. And I don't mean that rude. I just mean that if you're doing the right things and building the relationships, you don't need to apply to 300 jobs. Like I said, I just got this job and I didn't even apply for it. And it's because I wasn't afraid to reach out to a director of talent acquisition. People are afraid to reach out to those higher levels. So your resume should be tailored. You should be targeting maybe 10 to 20 companies. Start there. Just start with some companies, start with an industry. What are you excited about? Start looking. Put together a list of, hey, I want to work at, so for me, I want to work at ChenMed. I wanted to be in the healthcare space. I wanted to be in the value-based healthcare space. And then from there, I started connecting with literally everyone at ChenMed. I mean, I reached out to everyone in the talent department, everyone that I could find. And I started asking them, hey, I'm really interested in ChenMed. Like, what do you think? Can we hop on a call? And from there, yeah, not everyone's going to respond. But from there, I had a small subset of people that responded. And so all that to say that when you have a tailored resume, so then I had a tailored resume for ChenMed, and I could send it to the people who had given me some time, graciously given me some of their time. So that resume helped them connect the dots to, this is what ChenMed needs, and this is what Tabitha can do, and here's how we can come together to make it happen. So I try to offer tips on my LinkedIn as well of what can you add to your resume to mix it up a little bit, like hyperlink to the company that you used to work for. Because then as a recruiter, if I'm like, what's ChenMed? I can click on it, quickly go and see, oh, okay, it's primary care. And I put a little blurb right next to it of what ChenMed is, for example. So that's just one thing. But I think people they throw out these generic resumes that are a dime a dozen that are not going to get attention because they're copy paste. Like, I could copy it and paste it onto my resume and it would be the same thing. So when I talk to people about resumes, I encourage them to get as granular as you can get very specific, talk about what you did, not your responsibility. You didn't not just that, okay, I was assigned with taking out the trash, but how well did you take out the trash? What expectations did they have of you of taking out the trash? And how did you exceed those? And those are the things you want to be putting on your resume. You know what I mean? If you took out the trash successfully 15 times a day, and that was 5 times the amount that anyone else took it out, put that on your resume, because that's going to help you stand out. That's going to perk up the ears of a recruiter, the eyes of a recruiter, when they have 30 seconds to look at a resume, and many people will argue less than that. So you need to have those things on there that pop, and you don't need to have a 5-page resume if you can take out some of those generic statements and put in those, powerful statements that will pack a punch.
Yeah. And but here's the other thing I would say, at least in my experience. So when you get to be my age, right, and your career gets to be a little bit
21,
longer.
21, right? 21.
Yeah. I think I'm 21 on my 21st anniversary of being 21. But boiling down a resume to 1 or 2 pages is nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. And I would argue, and I've heard this from other recruiters too, and I wanted to get your perspective on it, that you don't need to boil your resume down to 1 or 2 pages. That if it needs to be 5, you need to have it be whatever tells your story. It's the content that's more important.
Amen.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, 1,000%. Now, if you're a brand new, college grad, you have had, maybe an internship or some other volunteer opportunities, like your resume should not be 5 pages long, right? I mean, but if you're an executive, you've been in the workforce for a while, I mean, there's a certain point where you can start to take something off of the end of your resume if you feel like it's not as applicable anymore. If you switched industries, if, something like that happened, you can always take that off and create a little bit of space too. But I would almost never recommend someone that's been in the industry, for example, as long as you have a 1-page resume. At that point, you're probably looking at a size 3 font, with paragraphs like this, trying to fit it all in. Like, part of the resume is the ease of reading it, the readability. So if a recruiter looks at it and it looks chaotic, there's a lot of recruiters out there, I'm not going to lie, that are going to hit decline and keep moving, and you're done. You could be the most qualified person, but if your resume isn't working for you, I mean, forget it. It's, so just, I encourage people to really pay attention to the white space on your resume. Make sure it looks clean, and you don't need a picture on there. You don't need anything crazy. Now, some industries, I think, like headshots, where headshots might be required. That's a different story. I'm not speaking to that. In my world, pictures, you don't need a picture on your resume. It takes up space. Just think about the necessities. Like, what would you want to know if you were a hiring manager? That most recruiters these days are looking at your LinkedIn profile. So if you don't have your LinkedIn profile on your resume, put it on. And with that said, customize your LinkedIn URL.
Yep.
Like mine is linkedin.com/in/tab-the-recruiter. So it all ties together with what I've chosen to do with my own, personal branding.
That's awesome. That's okay. So as we're starting to wrap up here, I want you to just give me an overview, right, of how your life has impacted you to this time now. And bear in mind that you're a relatively new mom, mm-hmm. right? You're a cancer survivor. You're in a new job today. Tell me how that's all shaped you.
Oh man, yeah, it taught me to be resilient as hell. I've learned that life can change in an instant, whether it's my own or the death of someone else, or whatever it might be. But I think the few things are figuring out my why and what really matters to me and what I'm working for. Being transparent, and I actually have brought that part of me in recruitment. I've brought that home, and it's been really cool to see, because it's opened up communication in my own small unit family, like my husband and my daughter. I feel like I'm so much more open with her than maybe I would have been if I hadn't been through the things. I wanted to speak transparently to her and treat her like she does understand what I'm talking about. And I've seen a huge improvement in things at home as well because of that. So yeah, I think, people say like, oh, there's a line between like business and personal. And I don't think that's true anymore, especially now that we've gone through COVID. But even before COVID, like, there's really no line in the sand. It's blurry, And when you learn to kind of cohesively bring those two pieces together, you can still have separate parts, but that middle part is kind of interesting because you figure out how it all blends together. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every day I wake up and thank God that I was able to take my first breath, that I'm like, oh, I'm still here. Yes. I get to do another cool thing today. And so I think just being mindful of that, it just changes the way I talk to people. It changes, like I said, my mindset's different now. So I'm grateful for everything that happened. And because of everything that happened, I also vow to fight in honor of all the people that are no longer here to do that for themselves. Because I realized just as easily that I could have been the young mom that they're talking about, that, oh, poor Colby, Tabitha's daughter, like doesn't have a mom. Like that could have been me. And it's not. And because it's not, I am going to freaking do everything I can to live the rest of my minutes and use everything that I've been gifted with to make a difference in this world. And yeah, that's it. That's me.
Well, you are incredible, Tab. You really are. You mentioned I forgot your phrase, but it kind of aligns with my one connection can change you. Yeah, I always say one connection can change a life. You are definitely that connection, and for not only for me, but for a lot of people. So if you're not connected to, if you're not following, if you're not engaging with Tabitha, you really do follow Tab the recruiter for some golden stuff. I want to thank you so much for being on Coffee with Bob on the live show. I really appreciate it. I think we probably can go on a little bit longer. So I'm going to get your commitment to be on again. We should probably do a Mother's Day special. That would kind of be cool.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
But likewise, I'm just going to shout you out. Bob is amazing and uplifts every single person that he comes across. So if you're watching this and you don't know me or you don't know Bob, please connect with both of us. And I promise that we'll both, respond to you and be engaging.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you, and have a happy Easter. Enjoy the egg hunt with your daughter.
Yeah, thank you. You have a happy Easter as well. I hope you enjoy your weekend and do something fulfilling.
Yeah, we will. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me on Coffee with Bob Live. I appreciate it. Appreciate you, Tabitha, and everyone take care.